Namaste, namaste. I hope everyone is doing great. And I'm happy to be here for the seventh satsang that we have started on 1st of July. And today is 12th of August. I was trying to connect some time back and it was showing that it's going live, but I couldn't see the streaming yet. So I had to reload the screen to stream it live once again. I hope everyone is doing great, and we are still in the middle of holiday times in August. So many are on holidays, some are coming back now. So, this is a wonderful time to have this session so that you can even watch later on. And one of the things that I keep getting in the emails is that people don't get proper notification. We try to post the event on Facebook and we also send some emails. But the best way would be if you subscribe to the channel, because when you subscribe to the channel, once we create the event, then you will get the notification on your YouTube. And if you're getting that notification, then it will be obviously coming to your phones and emails. So this is one of the best ways, I think, because YouTube is connected to your Gmail account. It will be more easier. So subscribe to the channel so that you don't have to wait for the emails, or you don't have to get the information on Facebook. Even if you miss there, you will still be able to get it on the YouTube notification itself. So yeah, that's about something I wanted to say, because I kept getting these emails in the last week. Having said that, let's start today's session as usual by sitting in silence for a few minutes. Make yourself comfortable and slow down the mind so that we can make the mind as empty as possible. And once you are in that state, then you will be able to understand everything more deeply. So slowly close your eyes. Slowly close your eyes. Sit in a comfortable position. Start breathing slowly. Inhale, exhale. As you inhale and exhale, observe your breathing. Inhale the positivity. Exhale your stress. Inhale love. Exhale frustrations. Inhale the abundance. Exhale your negativities. Now just inhale as you keep a smile on your face. And while exhaling, feel the freedom. Inhale and exhale. Even if your mind is getting distracted, that's totally fine. but try to bring it back on your breathing. As you inhale and exhale, observe all the chakras from the root to the crown. As you inhale, observe from root to the crown, and as you exhale, observe from crown to the root. Repeat for 5 times. Feel your chakras. Now slowly open your eyes. Wink your eyes and see your palms. Touch your face and bring your hands down. Now, in this silence, let's start with the satsang. Let me take the questions now. Let me go to my mail. Today is a solar eclipse. In the yogic and Vedic tradition, eclipses are often treated as inauspicious times for new beginnings, yet also as powerful moments for inner reflection. Why does the tradition see it this way? What is this? What is actually happening spiritually when the sun is hidden? Okay, thanks for the question. So, my dear, this is a very beautiful question. And the reason is that this question touches something that ancients understood with great subtlety and something that the modern mind dismisses it entirely as superstition or as blasphemy. And modern mind often misses the fact or the point entirely. Let's look at it today very freshly, not from the lens of blind belief and not rejecting um, anything blindly, also, but let us understand what's going on and why people came to that conclusion. Firstly, understand the symbolism that is operating here. Because eclipse is not just an astronomical curiosity when it comes to the ancient saints, it is One of the nature's rare and very dramatic demonstration of the truth they wanted humanity to feel directly. And they didn't want us to read in the book. The sun is almost, in every mystical traditions around the world, or any religion or any culture. Sun is something which is worshipped as the first god. In fact, even before the concept of God came into existence, the only object or only thing that was worshipped as God was sun. Even Rig Veda is based on sun, the very first Veda. And sun represents, in any tradition, consciousness itself. Sun represents awareness, clarity, the light by which everything else becomes visible. Without the sun, nothing in this world can be seen. And it is not because the objects disappear, but because the very capacity to perceive them vanishes if there is no sun. This is exactly what your own awareness is to your inner world. Without it, your thoughts, your emotions, sensations continue happening, but nothing is really illuminated. Nothing is really witnessed, and nothing is known. So, when the sun is hidden, even briefly, even by something as small as moon, because moon is very small, and compared to sun, it is tremendously small. So, even such a small astronomical event as moon passing in front of sun, the ancient saints, seers saw this as nature herself performing a teaching or giving us a message. And that message was, watch what happens when the light of awareness is obscured, even temporarily, even by something that seems so small. Now you might be having this question: why is it inauspicious for new beginnings? And I know where this question is coming from. There are facts in astrology which says that on a solar eclipse day don't start something new, and any good work should not be started today. So I understand why that question of inauspicious for new beginnings is coming from. It's not because that there is some kind of cosmic punishment that is awaiting you if you uh, sign a contract during an eclipse. or if you start any new good productive work during an eclipse time. This literalism is where the teaching um, gets into the territory of superstition, because it makes you fear. And that's exactly the kind of thing that keeps people small and anxious rather than awake. The deeper meaning of this is far more psychological, and it's far more useful, to be honest. Because when you start with any new beginnings, what do you need? What do you need? When you start with any new beginnings, you need clarity, first of all, because you need the ability to see clearly what you are getting into, whether it's good or not, what are the consequences, everything. It needs absolute clarity. And starting something significant during a moment symbolically associated with obscured perception is considered not wise. And it's not because that universe is going to punish you in any way, but it's because the ancient teachers were pointing to something practical. Don't make major decisions when your inner sun, okay, it's your inner sun, your own clarity is clouded. The eclipse became an external symbol for an internal state worth respecting. It simply said, don't act when you cannot see it. But notice the second half of what the tradition says. And this is where it becomes truly profound, rather than, merely giving you a message of caution. Eclipses are also considered powerful moments for your inner reflection, for you to turn inward. Why would a moment of obscure light be good for anything? If that is the question, then here is the secret, or here is the simple answer. And it is worth understanding it very slowly. It's worth sitting with it. When the outer sun dims, even briefly for a few minutes, something shifts in the whole atmosphere. You can observe that animals will go quiet, and birds that are sitting on the tree, they stop singing, making noises. The usual noise of the daylight world softens unexpectedly. The ancient saints used this natural, unusual quiet as an invitation. Since the outer light has stepped back for a moment, this is a rare opportunity to notice that inner light that doesn't depend on the sun at all. It's your own awareness, which was never actually the sun's creation to begin with, only obscured by the sun's constant, dazzling presence in the sky rest of the time. It's similar to how you can only truly see the stars um, once the overwhelming brightness of the sun goes down after the sunset. The eclipse symbolically dims the outer brightness just enough to let something quieter, something usually drowned out, become noticeable. Your own witnessing presence, unclothed for a moment from the usual sensory noise of a fully lit world, which was previously lit by the sun. This is why the tradition doesn't simply say do nothing during an eclipse, don't move, don't do this, don't do that. It's not a shadow ban. It's not a total prohibition. It simply says redirect your energy inward during this time of solar eclipse. Not because outward action is dangerous or anything as such, but because the outward uh, turning habit is so strong and it's so repetitive and it's so constant in our ordinary life, everyday's life, that a natural d- dramatic pause like solar eclipse becomes a rare ready-made invitation to interrupt that particular habit. Even for those who would never otherwise think to sit quietly, always on the phone, writing, reading, or any other habits. And this is the time to turn attention inward on an ordinary Wednesday like today. So, to speak, the nature hands you a natural meditation bell, ringing rarely enough that it surprises people out of their usual momentum. at least for a few hours. There is also something mm, worth understanding about eclipse, solar eclipse or lunar eclipse, but here we're speaking generally. And also about those cycles, because about endings and beginnings are more broadly spoken, but there are different cycles in that. In this context, in solar eclipse, the moon passing in front of the sun is symbolically a kind of death and also rebirth. It's because light is disappearing, and after its appointed time, it returns exactly as it always does, without any exceptions. This has been, read by seekers of the truth or spiritual seekers quite beautifully as a reminder. Even the deepest, darkest you might personally experience, such as grief. We discussed that in one of our satsangs. Confusion, for example, another thing. A period where your own inner clarity feels completely obscured. And none of this is permanent. Just as the sun always returns after an eclipse without needing to be summoned back through effort or worries, so too does clarity return to a mind that has passed through a, a moment of temporary darkness. If that darkness is not resisted, not panicked over, simply allowed to complete its nature, its brief passage. So, what is actually happening spiritually when the sun is hidden? If that is the question, it's not a punishment, it's not a cosmic danger, it's not something like cosmically something is going to happen, it's going to strike you uh, anytime very dangerously. And if anyone ignores the warning, something bad is going to happen. It's not that way, but it's an invitation. A very rare, because solar eclipse doesn't happen every time, but it's naturally occurring pause in the world's usual brightness, what you see in the sky regularly every day, without any invitation, without any effort. There is brightness, and this is an occasional pause, very rare, very natural. And this offers an opportunity to notice something that is always available but is usually overlooked. The quieter light of your own awareness, which needs no sun, no external validation, no outer brightness at all to remain exactly what it has always been. simply, patiently waiting underneath the noise of ordinary daylight for you to finally notice it is watching right now, this very moment, whether there is an eclipse or there is no eclipse at all. There is also other astrological factors if you believe in astrology, Vedic astrology. Everything has its own merits and demerits. Astrology too. So there is a malefic planet which we cannot see in our naked eyes, which is called as Rahu, the side of the moon, the north pole of the moon, the north node of the moon, which doesn't reflect the light. So that eats the sun symbolically. And there is a different story and there is a different setup for that. So that is also something which is spoken in Vedic astrology, for example. Just because you were asking, and I'm just trying to give you a different perspective from a different culture and a different philosophy. So this is the moment when Rahu, a malefic planet, is eating the sun, swallowing the sun for that brief moment. So that's it about the solar eclipse. I think eclipse will be happening in 1 hour or 2 hours, depending on where you are. Um, good, good. I saw the subject line of this question and I picked it up because maybe many are having this question since we have solar eclipse today. Okay, let's go to the second question. Um, what is the difference between the ego and the self that the scriptures ask us to transcend? Scriptures ask us to transcend. Okay. If I try to let go of my ego, who is the one doing and letting go? Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Huh, my beloved. It's really a very beautiful question. I really like such questions. Um, I would like to start with something funny about it. You have just put your finger on a button which I call as trap, which has confused seekers for thousands of years. And you're not alone. And the fact that you have pressed exactly that button means you are already thinking far more clearly than most people who, in the spiritual circles, who keep saying, let go of ego, let go of this, let go that, let go this, let go of me, let go, let go of everything. So we keep hearing this, let go of ego, let go of ego. And they keep saying without ever noticing this exact contradiction hiding inside the instruction. Let's go slowly because this is subtle and rushing it will only produce more questions in your mind, what I call as mental pilates or mental gymnastics, and it won't understand in that state. So let's go slow. First, the difference between ego and self. And I want to write self in capital letters and ego all in small letters. Just figure that. Okay? And I'm doing it purposely because these two words, the ego and the self, though they sound like they belong to the same family, they point entirely different uh, dimensions of your own being. You might be wondering that it's the same, but it might it might feel so, it might sound so, but they're not the same. They're completely different dimensions, as I said. The ego is not a thing, though it feels like it's a thing. Ego is a process. It's a habit, a continuously repeated act of self reference. It is a bundle of memories, a group of memories, or a package of memories, however you want to call it as. It includes some roles, some opinions, some wounds, some achievements, your fears, and all these things are stitched together into a story that says, for example, I am this. If you have seen a whirlpool in the river, or just Google search a whirlpool, it always seems like a very distant object, because it is spinning there with its own boundary, always. It has its own identity, very solid identity. But if you go closer to it, but don't really go closer, it's dangerous. But I'm just saying, if you just go closer to it and you find there is actually nothing called as a whirlpool, there is only water moving in a circular pattern, and the pattern creates the appearance of a separate entity. Otherwise it's just a water, and that entity is created only because of that appearance. Otherwise it's simply a water. The ego is exactly like that, a pattern of thought spinning around the center point, what you call as me, creating a powerful illusion of a solid, continuous self, when actually underneath it there is only a flow of experience with no fixed owner. And the self, what the Upanishads, what the Vedas, what the scriptures calls as Atman, is not a bigger, better version of this whirlpool, the metaphor that I gave. It is not a more polished ego, a more spiritual me. The self is the water itself. The water which is prior to and untouched by that spinning. Okay? The water which is not touched by that spinning, which is just there in the same place. It is not a personal possession. When we say myself, it is almost a misleading phrase because the self, when you properly understand, is not an individual at all. It is the same awareness in which the whirlpool of ego appears, the vast consciousness that doesn't need to defend itself, doesn't need any achievements, doesn't need anyone's approval, because it was never actually threatened by anything, never actually incomplete, never actually separate from anything. This is the first point. So it was never separate from anything to begin with. This is why the mystics evaluate or eventually equate Atman with Brahman. Adi Shankaracharya says, Aham Brahmasmi, Iham Tattvamasi. I am Brahman, you are too. The individual self and the universe, the self and the universal self, or Atman or the Brahman, or the individual self and the universal ground of being, turn out on close inspection to be exactly the same water, just temporarily appearing as countless separate whirlpools across the surface of the world. Now, your real question, the most sharp one, the smart one, the one almost nobody asks loudly because it exposes the whole trap. If I try to let go of ego, uh, who is doing the letting go? The question is brilliant. The question is beautiful because you have caught the mind in its own game. If you look at the question closely, the one who decides, I must let go of ego. Okay? I must let go of ego. The one who plans a strategy for it, monitors its own progress, feels proud when it seems to be working, feels frustrated also when it is not working. And when I'm saying like the one who plans, the one who is seeing the working, and the one, and this one is not some enlightened observer, like standing outside the ego, and who is calmly directing all these operations. And this is the ego itself. This is the ego itself, which is wearing a new costume, a new dress, but it's playing a more sophisticated game this time. The whirlpool cannot dissolve itself by spinning harder in the opposite direction. That's a still spinning, just a different rotation, but still it's a fully operational whirlpool. This is why so many honest, sincere seekers of the truth, trying hard to find that switch of kill the ego, end up with something almost comic if it weren't so painful, right? A spiritual ego, proud of its humility, competitive about its non-attachment, judging others for being less evolved, secretly keeping scores of its own progress towards the so-called egolessness. The ego is endlessly clever this way. It can survive almost any attack you launch against it. Because the attacker and the attacked, both the attacker and the attacked, turns out to be the same entity, just facing the different directions. But it's still the same, it's still the same unit. So, what is the way out of this trap that we are talking about? It is not the effort, it is not your strong willpower, it is not a strategy of suppression, or it's not even forcefully letting go. Provided it works, it doesn't, but forcefully letting it go. Like, let me just put that option here. But it's something, far more delicate. And this is what I call as understanding first. It is about not doing something to the ego, but simply seeing it clearly, watching it, witnessing it, the way how you would watch any pattern with curious, non judgmental attention. And that is very important. You have to be curious and you have to be non judgmental about what you are watching. Just witnessing, just watching, not judgmental. but with a lot of curiosity. And when you see truly the whirlpool for what it is, you're not fighting it, and you're not trying to forcibly still it, just watching. Okay, just watching the spinning of the whirlpool with total clarity. At that moment, something remarkable happens. Although it cannot be really manufactured when you want, the seeing itself, if it's deep enough, then it naturally loosens the grip of identification. You start to notice that thoughts are happening rather than I am thinking. You start to notice anger is arising rather than I am angry. This shift is very subtle, but it is everything. Why I'm saying that is because in that noticing, or what I called it as witnessing, you are no longer entirely inside the whirlpool, spinning blindly. Some part of you, the very awareness, doing the witnessing or watching, has already quietly stepped a little closer to the being, the water itself, rather than the pattern. And that is very important when you move closer to that water and not the pattern itself. This is why one of the greatest masters of non duality, Ramana Maharshi, who is one of the clearest voices on this particular question, gave such a deceptively simple instruction. Instead of trying to destroy the ego directly, ask yourself again and again, very sincerely, very honestly, who am I? And it is not to perceive a clear answer, because whether you want or not, the mind will offer you many clever answers. I'm soul, I'm conscious, I'm God, I'm this, I'm that, everything. And every answer is just another whirlpool which is trying to describe itself. But to keep tracing the sense of I back to its source again and again, until the question itself, followed deeply though, followed deeply enough, this exhausts the mind's ability to keep generating new answers. And something underneath the question is revealed. And it is revealed, and it is not achieved. I don't want to use that word achieved. It's revealed. There is nothing to achieve. There is something to be revealed. So it's not an achievement. There's something to be revealed also because it was never absent, first of all. And that's why I'm using the word revealed. If something is not absent, which means it is or it was already there, it was never absent at the first place. It was only ever obscured by the constant activity of a mind convinced it needed to solve this as a problem, fix this as a fault, and achieve this as a goal. So here is the real secret, or here is a real mystery. The one that dissolves your paradox rather than trying to force an answer through it. You do not let go of the ego. Ego dissolves, but on its own, in the light of clear seeing. The way darkness does not need to be pushed out of a room by force. It simply isn't there anymore once light enters. Without the light needing to fight the darkness. Just the same thing what I spoke for solar eclipse. When the light comes, the darkness disappears. Your only real work is not letting go, because this is still an act of letting go something. Still, there is some effort. Still, the ego is trying to perform enlightenment as its next achievement. Your only real work is watching, is witnessing with very high level of honesty, patience, without any agenda, without any calendars for what you should see. And please let that watching do what watching always eventually does, reveal what was already true. Underneath the whole exhausting performance of becoming someone who has finally successfully let go. Let it happen naturally, not through the mind, not through any effort. Keep watching, keep witnessing. So, having said that, we have reached the end of the satsang. Thank you so much for your questions. Really, the satsang was very good, and questions are only improving every week. And I love to answer this to make it clear for you. Although mind is involved in understanding these things, but we are training the mind for understanding it and applying it, because anyone can understand anything. Anybody can understand. You can read something, you can listen to me, and you can understand. But after understanding something, if you put that into action, only then you will be able to see the progress. So I hope after listening to all the satsangs, or if you read something somewhere, you also try to put that into work, so that you don't think, but you act. And when you act, you witness. When you witness, you will find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for being here this week. We will meet again next week on next Wednesday. Until then, take care of yourself. I'll keep you always in my prayer. Thank you.